Hello and welcome to Writing Your Resume webinar presented by the Career Center.
Today we're going to discuss the purpose of your resume, what kind of information to include in your resume, formatting guidelines for you to follow, and also some important do's and don'ts that you don't want to forget when developing your resume.
Your resume is a marketing tool that provides the reader with information about yourself. The purpose is to introduce yourself as a qualified candidate and to motivate the employer to interview you. You want to think about your resume as if it's your personal billboard, kind of explaining your skills and experiences to an employer at a glance. There's an example on the screen of a resume with all the different sections that we'll go into. These include your personal data or your header, your objective, education, experience, projects, and skills. Depending on your experience, you may have different sections, and that's okay, but these are some of the common sections that you will view on a resume.
So as we begin discussing resume format, we want you to first understand its importance. An average employer will review a resume for anywhere from 6 to 30 seconds. If your resume is not easy to read or the format is confusing or inconsistent, an employer will not be able to decipher your top skills and experiences that relate to the position. You want to avoid your resume format being a reason that you are not considered for a position.
Your resume should be one page. This depends on your experience, but most often employers are looking for a one-page resume. We recommend creating what's known as a master resume. This is a resume that has all of your skills and experiences on it, and you're not going to pay attention to the page length. But when you go to put together your resume for a position, you include only relevant experiences that the employer is looking for. The resume isn't a document that includes all of your experiences, it only includes your relevant experience. You should always utilize bullet points when putting together your action verb statements to describe your skills and experiences. Bullet points are easier for the employer to read and easily scan to see if you have the skills and qualifications that they're looking for. In terms of the font size, your header should be about 12 points, so they're a little bit bigger and stand out to the employer. As well as the body size should be anywhere from 10 to 11 points, so it's easy to read. You can also include very easy to read fonts like Arial, Georgia, Helvetica. And you want to make sure that you go back a maximum of 10 years of experience. In terms of the format, you want to utilize reverse chronological order. What that means is your most recent experience will always go first, followed by all of your other experiences. But just know most recent experience will go first. As well as with format, consistency is key. You need to be consistent throughout the entire document. There's no one right or wrong way to format, you just need to be consistent. So one way to be consistent is if you're bolding, caps, or italicizing. You want to make sure if you're bolding the organization or italicizing the title that you do that throughout the entire document. You need to be consistent in your date ranges. If you're only listing the year, only list the year for every other experience that includes years or date ranges. If you spell out the month, always spell out the month, or if you use the number. As well as with location. You don't want to switch between writing CA or actually writing out California. You want to stay consistent. As well as with your font size and style. You should utilize the same font and size and style throughout the entire document.
So we're now going to begin discussing the sections that you can include in your resume. So to begin, your header is going to be the first section on your resume. This is a must. This is not an optional section. Included in your header will be your full name, usually in bold, and in a font size a little bit larger than the other content so that it stands out to the employer. You also want to include your current home address, which is optional, and also current contact information with your phone number and email address. In regards to your phone number, you want to make sure that you have a professional voicemail set up. And you also want to make sure that your email address is also professional in nature. Some tips for that is to avoid long number sequences, personal hobbies or sports teams included in your email address, or any inappropriate content. Lastly, your header can also include your LinkedIn address or website with a customized URL.
The next part is the objective. And if you're going to use an objective, it must be customized to the position and organization and include skills that the employer is looking for. Review the job description, more specifically the qualification section, to see what the employer is looking for. An example of this is to obtain a public relations coordinator position at ABC Company to utilize my communication and event planning skills. In the objective, they put the specific position, the company, and skills that the employer is looking for. The only time you would possibly put together a general objective is if you were distributing your resume to multiple employers in one setting, like a career fair. The next section is your education. You're going to want to put the name of the school, so California State University Fullerton. You don't want to put Cal State Fullerton or CSUF, as that isn't as formal. You want to put your expected graduation. Sometimes I'll see people put the date and month that they started to present, but this doesn't give the employer any idea of when you'll be completing your program. You also want to put the actual degree, so spelling out Bachelor of Science Computer Science or Bachelor of Arts Communications. List out the full degree. And you'll want to put your GPA if it's above a 3.0. And some other rules to follow is you only list colleges or universities where you will receive or have received a degree. So if you transferred or went to community college but didn't complete your AA, you don't have to put the degree on your resume. And again, the GPA should be at least a 3.0 if listed.
Another section you can think about adding is a related coursework section, where you highlight between 3 to 6 courses that are related to the opportunity to which you are applying. So as you see on the example on the screen, below the related coursework heading title, you see 4 courses listed in bullet point format. You only need to include the course title. You do not need to include the semester you completed the course, the grade you received in the class, or the course number. Another similar section that you could think about adding is a course project section, where again it's designed to highlight a course project that you were involved in, where the skills that you developed or the methods you utilized would be valuable to the employer. So if you were to add this section to your resume, what you would want to include in that section is the name of the project, the date range in which it was completed, and then you want to utilize bullet points to describe that project, the purpose, the method, the skills that you utilized, or the results that came about from you having completed that project.
The next section of your resume is experience, and this will take up the bulk of your resume. And there's different ways of kind of talking about or labeling your experience. You could call it work or professional, leadership experience, internship, research, teaching experience. It's really going to depend on your specific experiences that you have had. You can also create customized experience sections for your resume depending on what you're applying to. So for example, you could create an accounting experience section or a marketing experience to showcase positions within that industry. So when an employer is scanning your resume, they can see that you've had accounting or marketing experience. The format for experience will look consistent throughout, where you'll put the organization, city, state, date range, and title, and then go into bullet point statements starting with action verbs that describe what you accomplished. We have an example below where it says Fullerton Unified School District, states when they work there, as well as their title, and then goes into bullet points describing. So whether you're putting work experience, internship, marketing, accounting experience, it all should follow this specific format.
So as you begin developing your bullet points, the first thing you want to do is always begin every bullet point with an action verb. Some samples include design, plan, facilitate, develop, and organize, just to name a few. What you want to make sure to pay attention to is the verb tense. In any experiences listed on your resume that have already ended, you want to make sure that the verbs are in the past tense. And for any experiences on your resume that are still current and still happening, then those verbs need to be in the present tense. So as you begin writing those bullet points, you want to also make sure that what you're writing is very geared towards skills and accomplishments and actions that you've taken through those to be results oriented. You want to avoid just listing the tasks or the short job descriptions that you had in that experience. So a formula that we have found helpful to use when working with students developing their resume, their bullet points, is the following. Always begin that bullet point with an action verb that usually leads into you describing one responsibility or one task that you had in that experience. But then you want to add on additional information. You could either add on the purpose, so why you were completing that. You could add on the method, how you completed that, which usually gives the employer a good idea of the skills that you have utilized. And lastly, you could also add on the result or the accomplishment that came about from that action you're describing. Additional details you can include are any numbers, populations that you worked with, specific programs such as a computer program or a technical program that you utilized, ages of people that you've worked with, or the impact that you had in that specific experience.
We've outlined examples where in the blue, it's the action verb. So conducted, familiarized, collaborated. And these are all in the past tense, so they're no longer in the position. In the orange, we've outlined details like numbers and specific subjects. And for example, conducted 20 individual and group tutoring sessions for undergraduates and high school students per week in physics and chemistry. If the student didn't include the details such as how many, what subjects, the employer wouldn't have an idea of the specific skills that they would bring based on those details. You don't want to keep the employer guessing. You really want to lay it out for them in terms of what you worked with to give them an overall idea of your experiences. We can't emphasize enough that you really need to make sure that you are customizing your resume for the specific job that you're applying for. One of the ways to do this is to create a bullet point statement that highlights specifically what the employer is looking for. For example, if in the job description it mentions having excellent communication skills, then you want to have a bullet point that starts with communicate. It really is looking to the job description and seeing how you can change things and highlight words that they're utilizing in their job description. As well as with your experience, you really need to think about the content. A lot of times students will say, I don't have any experience, but that's not true. You want to reflect on your experience and think about the transferable skills to the field. So for example, if you work in the restaurant industry, you don't want to focus on, that you seat people or you take orders, but rather that you provide exceptional customer service. Think about the skills that the employers are looking for and create customized content from there. You really want to focus on transferable skills. So transferable skills are skills that can be utilized in any industry, whether it's engineering, accounting, marketing, the sciences. These are skills like communication, organization, leadership, and collaboration. So think about your experiences and think, how have I collaborated with someone or how have I problem solved? It might not be within your field, but you're showcasing transferable skills that make the employers want to hire you.
Another section you could add to your resume is a skills section. And within your skills section, you want to include related or professional skills that would be valuable to the employer should they hire you. Some examples of that include technical skills. So perhaps research-related skills such as statistical and data analysis techniques or tools, or also including computer skills such as Microsoft Office Suite. Students often include language skills as well if it pertains to them. What you want to do if you include language skills is make sure to include the fluency level. Conversational, for example, or fluent, meaning you're able to speak, read, and write in another language. Bilingual, meaning you're able to speak in another language. Or written and verbal skills related to a specific language. Other examples that students might include, dependent on their major or the industry they're pursuing, are social media skills, specific design software, or public speaking. What you want to make sure to avoid in your skills section is including personality characteristics or qualities, such as friendly or hardworking or team player. So now that you know all of the sections that you could add to your resume, you want to remember to order your sections in order of relevance to the position. So the most important and most relevant sections are highlighted first, and then you move down towards the least important or least relevant sections. So think about it like a newspaper. If you were to fold your resume in half, you want the most relevant and most important pieces of your resume to be on that top half. Just like when you see a newspaper, the top headline, the top news story is always highlighted on the top half of that newspaper.
Now we're going to go into some resume do's and don'ts. So the do's is make sure you're tailoring your resume to the job. Employers have mentioned time and time again that they want students to reflect about the position and how those skills relate. So really make sure that you're tailoring the objective, utilizing action verb statements like communicate and plan if they mention that in the job description, moving sections around based on if they're looking for someone that speaks Spanish fluently, you need to move that section up a little bit higher on their resume rather than putting it more at the bottom. You want to make sure your contact information is current. If you have the wrong phone number or email, the employer is not going to be able to get a hold of you for the interview. You want to be honest about your skills and experiences. Do not lie on your resume because an employer can do a background check to make sure that you have the accurate position and duties on there. You want to make sure that you proofread your resume. You don't want to give the employer a reason to put you in the no pile, and employers are getting a lot of resumes, so if they see one mistake, that might put you in the no pile, and you always want to be in the yes pile to move on to the interview. As well as make sure that you're continuously updating your resume. This is a document that's going to live with you for the rest of your career. So you want to make sure that you're not just updating it, putting in, not looking at it again until you're applying for jobs, that you're always updating it and so it's ready for the next experience that you want to apply for.
So some things to remember to not do in your resume. You should never include the word I in any statements or any content included in your resume. You also want to avoid providing any salary information from any of the experiences that you've had. Similarly, you want to avoid disclosing any personal information such as age, gender, religion, marital status, or also photographs of yourself. You also want to avoid including the phrase references available upon requests. When an employer is at the stage, for example, after the interview, when they are interested in hiring you, at that time they will request your references. You also want to avoid listing skills without demonstrating how or in what context you've utilized those skills. Should you need additional resume assistance, we highly encourage you to pick up one of our career guides at the Career Center or visit our website for an electronic version. You can also make appointments with College Career Specialists by calling 657-278-3121. And you can also visit our drive-through hours, which is a quick 10 to 15 minute walk-in appointment at the Career Center located in Langsdorff Hall, room 208 on the second floor. And you can always check our website for more information. If you have any additional questions or would like to get connected to the Career Center, please call us at 657-278-3121, email us at careercenter@fullerton.edu, or visit our website at fullerton.edu/career. Thank you again for joining us in our resume writing webinar.